Japan's Ispace attempts world's first commercial moon landing. Japan's Ispace set to make history with world's first commercial moon landing. Japanese startup Ispace is poised to make history by landing its Hakuto-R Mission 1M1 spacecraft on the moon, in what would be the first successful private lunar landing ever. Scheduled for Wednesday morning, Japan time, the M1 will touch down on the moon after taking off from Cape Canaveral, Florida, on a SpaceX rocket. If successful, the M1 lander will be the fourth spacecraft to achieve a soft landing on the moon. If successful, the M1 lander will be the fourth spacecraft to achieve a soft landing on the moon. By Web Desk April 25, 2023. If all goes to plan, Ispace's Hakuto-R Mission 1 lander will start its descent towards the lunar surface at around 1540 GMT, AFP file. If all goes to plan, Ispace's Hakuto-R Mission 1 lander will start its descent towards the lunar surface at around 1540 GMT AIFP. Japanese startup Ispace is poised to make history by landing its Hakuto-R Mission 1M1 spacecraft on the moon in what would be the first successful private lunar landing ever. Scheduled for Wednesday morning Japan time, the M1 will touch down on the moon after taking off from Cape Canaveral, Florida, on a SpaceX rocket. The image shows the Hakuto-R Mission 1 lander stored in SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. The image shows the Hakuto-R Mission 1 lander stored in SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, AFP. The landing comes as a welcome achievement for Japan, which has experienced multiple setbacks in its space technology endeavors, including the forced destruction of its new medium-lift H-3 rocket by Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency (JAXA) last month. Despite these challenges, Japan remains committed to developing its domestic space industry and achieving its goal of sending Japanese astronauts to the moon by the late 2020. If successful, the M1 lander will be the fourth spacecraft to achieve a soft landing on the moon, following the United States, the former Soviet Union, and China. India and a private Israeli company have attempted to land on the moon in recent years, but both failed. The M1 will carry a two-wheeled rover developed by JAXA, Japanese toy maker Tomy and Sony, as well as the United Arab Emirates four-wheeled Rashid rover. Additionally, the spacecraft will carry an experimental solid-state battery made by NGK Sparkplug and other objects to gauge their performance on the moon. In its second mission in 2024, the M1 will bring Ispace's own rover, and from 2025 the company will collaborate with U.S. Space Lab Draper to bring NASA payloads to the moon. The long-term goal is to establish a permanently staffed lunar colony by 2040. The success of Ispace's lunar development and transportation business has been reflected in the company's market debut on the Tokyo Stock Exchange this month. The startup's shares soared as investors bet that its business will align with Japan's national policy of defense and space development. In conclusion, if the M1 spacecraft lands successfully, it will be a major milestone for the private space industry, especially in Japan, and pave the way for further lunar exploration and development. A Japanese lunar lander carrying a rover developed in the United Arab Emirates will attempt to find its footing on the moon's surface Tuesday, potentially marking the world's first lunar landing for a commercially developed spacecraft. The lander launched atop a SpaceX rocket from Cape Canaveral, Florida on December 11. Since then, the spacecraft has taken a 3-month trek to enter orbit around the moon, which lies about 239,000 miles (383,000 kilometers) from Earth, using a low-energy trajectory. Overall, the trek took the lander about 870,000 miles, 1.4 million kilometers into space. Live coverage of the landing is expected to begin Tuesday as early as 11:20 a.m. MET, or about an hour and 20 minutes ahead of the scheduled landing. Touchdown is expected to occur Tuesday at 12:40 p.m. MET, which is Wednesday at 1:40 a.m. Japan Standard Time. The lunar lander called Hakuto-R is carrying the Rashid rover, which was built by Dubai's Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, in the United Arab Emirates, the first Arab-built lunar spacecraft. In history, only 3 countries have ever executed a controlled landing on the moon: the United States, the former Soviet Union, and China. The U.S. remains the only country to have put humans on the moon. Japanese company Ispace, which built the Hakuto-R lander, has a different approach to prior lunar missions, aiming to land its spacecraft on the moon as a for-profit business rather than under the banner of a single country. Japan's Ispace is one of several companies that competed in the Google Lunar XPrize, which offered a $20 million reward to the company that could put a robotic rover on the moon, travel a couple of thousand feet, and transmit data back to Earth.